This is going to blow your mind. A widow, a prophet, and a tiny jar of oil. Ready? Let's dive in. So, there was this widow. Her husband had passed away, leaving her with 2 sons and a mountain of debt. The creditors were knocking. They wanted to take her boys as slaves. Desperate and heartbroken, she turned to the prophet Elisha. Elisha asked, "What do you have in your house?" And she replied, "Just a small jar of oil." "Now, here's where it gets good." Elisha told her to gather as many empty jars as she could. Then he said, "Pour oil into all the jars." Can you imagine her face? She probably thought, this tiny jar, fill all these big jars. But she trusted him. And guess what? As she poured, the oil never ran out. Jar after jar, it kept flowing. When the last jar was full, the oil stopped. She went back to Elisha, who said, "Sell the oil, pay your debts, and live on what's left." Her sons were saved and her life was transformed. This story isn't just about oil. It's about faith, miracles, and hope. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, there's a light. Trust, have faith, and miracles can happen. So, next time you feel like you have nothing left, remember the widow's oil. Sometimes a little faith is all you need for a miracle. The story of the widow and the endless oil is one of the many miracles recorded in the Bible. It's a tale that has been passed down through generations, inspiring countless people with its message of hope and faith. Imagine living in those times where every day was a struggle for survival. The widow's plight was not uncommon. Many families faced similar hardships, and the threat of losing loved ones to debt slavery was a constant fear. Elisha, a man of God, was known for his wisdom and miracles. When the widow approached him, he didn't offer her money or food. Instead, he gave her a solution that required her to act in faith. Picture the widow going from house to house, asking her neighbors for empty jars. It must have seemed like a strange request, but she did it without hesitation. Her faith in Elisha's words drove her to take action. Her neighbors, curious and perhaps a bit skeptical, handed over their jars. They might have wondered what she was up to, but they complied. Little did they know, they were about to witness a miracle. Back in her small home, the widow and her sons lined up the jars. The room must have been filled with a mix of anticipation and doubt. Could this really work? Would the oil truly keep flowing? With a deep breath, the widow began to pour. The first jar filled up, then the next and the next. The oil kept coming, defying all logic and expectation. Her sons watched in amazement as the oil continued to flow. Their eyes wide with wonder, they saw firsthand the power of faith and the miraculous provision of God. When the last jar was finally filled, the oil stopped. It was a perfect provision, not a drop more or less than what was needed. The miracle was complete. The widow sold the oil in the marketplace, earning enough to pay off her debts and secure a future for her family. Her act of faith had not only saved her sons, but had also transformed their lives. Elisha, watching from a distance, must have smiled, knowing that he had been an instrument of God's miracle. His faith and guidance had brought hope and salvation to a desperate family. This ancient story still resonates today. It teaches us that no matter how dire our circumstances, faith can lead to miraculous outcomes. It encourages us to trust in the unseen and to believe in the power of divine intervention. So whenever you find yourself in a situation that seems hopeless, remember the widow and her endless oil. Let her story inspire you to have faith, take action, and believe in the possibility of miracles. Because sometimes, all it takes is a little faith to turn a small jar of oil into a life-changing miracle. And that, my friends, is the power of faith and the promise of miracles.